A just published study is providing a look at Americans' views on religious freedom, and it finds overall a majority of Americans agree with the protections guaranteed by the First Amendment. The poll conducted by the AP-NORC Center for Public Affairs Research at the University of Chicago Divinity School found before the COVID-19 outbreak in the U.S., 78% of those who responded said Americans should be able to practice any religion without government restriction. Joining me now on Skype to talk more about the importance of protecting religious freedom is Andrea Picciotti-Bayer, National Catholic Register contributor that is, and legal analyst. Andrea, welcome back. Always so good to see you.
Tracy, thank you so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. So what do you make of this survey, and what stands out the most to you?
You know, I think it's really important reminder that religious freedom is our first freedom. It's kind of built into the DNA of Americans. What's very interesting about the study, though, is it was conducted before the pandemic and a lot of the restrictions in place to try to curb the spread of coronavirus. And since then, the same group that created the study looked at the role of faith and spirituality in Americans, and they responded, a quarter of them said that their faith and their spirituality became even more important during this time. So I would assume even more Americans would say religious freedom, our right to not only worship, but to express our faith, is really an important part of who we are and what our government should be promoting.
And Andrea, I know that you just published a piece on religious liberty policy. What impact do you think the pandemic has had on religious freedom here in America?
Well, I think it's a very troublesome concern. First off, we know that at the very initial stages of the pandemic, there were important regulations and restrictions placed on just Americans' mobility in general. And that restricted our ability to do important things like gather together in worship. And our churches were closed. Many of them are starting to reopen with definite restrictions on what used to be our normal. But I think that it's also the civil unrest that kind of came about during this time of quarantine and isolation also shows that there's a lot of tension and a lot to be remembered about how important our religious history is to who we are, and that we stand strong in defending not only this religious history, but also our future. Our ability to gather together, our ability to respond to our neighbors in need, and our ability to continue to spread our faith, especially in the context of our Catholic schools and other religious institutions.
And Andrea, if you don't mind, I want to talk more about a line from your piece. You say, if America loses its enthusiasm for defending religious liberty, what are the implications for religious believers now being horribly persecuted all over the world? So what's at stake here? What do you think, Andrea?
Well, I think our American leadership is very important on so many things. We have been such leaders in showing the importance and the success of democracy, as well as the importance of how a pluralistic society benefits all sectors of our community, whether it's economic or internal security, regional security with our neighbors. When we allow religious freedom to flourish, our country and our people flourish. We have been leading that important charge to teach the rest of the world community the importance of religious freedom at an international level. And the coronavirus pandemic has really put a lot of stress and strain on countries and people and religious freedom. And if we're not able to celebrate and defend and safeguard religious freedom at home, our leadership abroad is going to be very undermined. And that means that there are Christians and other religious minorities that are going to face even greater persecution if they're not getting the support from American leaders in this important area.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for your time, and always thank you so much for your insights. We really appreciate it.
Tracy, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.